Hi, I'm Gordy. I'm an alcoholic. Thank you, Laura, for asking me to speak. We got sober young, I guess, younger, and a lot of us didn't lose everything, before we got sober. I wouldn't say I was a high bottom drunk, but your bottom's your bottom. You can quit whenever you feel like you're done, basically. And I was in rehab. My guitarist was in rehab. He went to a different rehab. I went to another rehab. We got out. I stayed sober. He didn't. And then I just been going to meetings, and it was hard to compete with some stories I heard. I never took acid and wound up in Africa not knowing how the fuck I got there. I never jumped on a train and went to St. Louis, to meet somebody, and got drunk and wound up in Baton Rouge or whatever the fuck people, I wasn't doing shit like that. I come from a long line of alcoholic men, man. It was my birthright to be a drunken idiot, and I had all the genetics. I had everything going on. I had the DNA, and it's kind of weird too, because I come to meetings sometimes and people say, "Hi, I'm an alcoholic," and it's like, I already know you. I already know everything about you, man. You don't even have to say a word. And it's weird how that is. But there was a guy, I was so fortunate when I got sober, because there were people around. I guess you call them earth angels or something now. But there were people in the meetings that just made such a huge impact on me at the time. And I mean, I didn't know, I didn't know what kind of giants they were at the time, but they were there. And one of them used to say stuff like, if you have an alcoholic mind, it's just a horrible, horrible thing to have, probably the worst. And the only thing worse than an alcoholic is an alcoholic with kids, and people would say stuff like that, because, you're in the store and you're like, diapers, whiskey, whiskey. It was like every time. And I just hear these stories, and, these people were like, this guy said his wife left him, took the kids, and he said it was the best thing she could have ever done for herself. He said, because I was going down to the bottom, and I was going to take them with me all the straight to fucking hell. And she split, and it's the best thing she could have ever done. Shit like that. But I do get emotional. It's all right. I've got a lot to get emotional about lately, man. It's been a rough ride. But, anybody that's still here, like I see Bird over here, I've been following his little surgical stories. And it's so good to see people, that have been around, and Lara, and anybody, that I'm familiar with, and to see that they're still here, It's really, really cool. So I've been sober, now for 36 years. I think I just celebrated in July. And thanks. It hasn't been easy. It's hard, It is hard, It's hard to take the high road when you know what the low road is, It's hard to turn the other cheek when you really don't want to, when there's stress is like, the feeling that you want to choke the living shit out of someone that deserves it, but you can't, or you just don't feel like it, or you're not willing to today. It's like, I don't feel like going to jail today. Thank you very much, or whatever. But yeah, I got a DUI when I was young. I was drinking 5 times a day. I was drunk all the time. I used to say I drank oceans of alcohol and I smoked mountains of pot. That's, how can you describe it? These chairs that you're sitting in cost a lot of money to sit in these chairs, And my drug of choice was whatever you had. and I was a pain in everybody's frickin' ass all the time. And I got in a lot of trouble, and I was a pain in the fucking ass all the time. And, nowadays it's like, I don't really get to be a pain in the ass, and I kind of grew up in Alcoholics Anonymous, and, there was another guy that used to say, before a cat can lick its ass, you'll be drunk in a ditch and dead. And, you got to be careful of your sobriety. All the time. It says we always have to think, that we're an alcoholic first. Whenever I used to go into clubs or whatever, because I didn't want to not be able to do whatever I wanted to do and not be able to go wherever I wanted to go. But there were certain situations that I just couldn't handle. And I would leave, and I would always bring my own car so I'm not stuck there or whatever. And there's a book called Living Sober. It's got all kinds of little, how do you say no, to people that ask you, why don't you drink and stuff like that. And I just say I'm allergic or whatever. I break out in spots like jail, rehab, whatever, hospitals and stuff. So, being sober, I think, there's been a lot of accomplishments, I guess. I started a business, I bought a house, I got married, I got divorced, I lost a business. Everything I've lost or has happened to me in sobriety, not in, it's not really part of my drunk-a-log. My drunk-a-log is like this short, my sobriety is like this. But so there's been a lot, that's just gone down, that I've had to learn from. And I'm a lot better at being sick, sober, than I was drunk, and stuff. There's a lot more stuff to work on when you're sober. And they say that just taking away the alcohol and the drugs, you're physically as sober as you're ever going to be within about a week. But then it's all about, the mental, the mind, the mental, emotional, spiritual, physical part of all of it. And that's kind of a tall order, but they talked, and I was just describing this to someone earlier about, it talks about that we have to have an entire psychic change to facilitate recovery from alcoholism. The entire psychic change, when I looked it up at the time, it meant a change at the level of your soul. And, for me, my demons are huge. My alcoholism is huge. And so I got a murderer inside of me, and I'm the victim, So I needed a higher power that was like the God I grew up with, only on steroids times 20, to fight my disease off every day. And because it wants me, it does. It wants me bad. It still wants me. And so they did the second step, which I called the Invent a God step or whatever. And so where I did a couple lists and I threw out everything I thought God was, and I made up everything I need God to be or whatever. And that's where I devised this thing that's been helping me all these years. And then, what I got hung up on early on was, how do I change? Like in the third step, they talk a lot about change and change this and change that. And I didn't know how. I was so stuck on just, this one thing. And I was like, how do I change? How do I change? Because people were changing around here, they were having that entire psychic change at the level of their soul. They were like different, and stuff. They weren't just stuck, just the same old frickin' douchebag or whatever. They were changing. And I did go to the Billy Badass School of Dumb Shits. I was that guy, that would pull up for your teenage daughter in his muscle car with his leathers and his chains and just screaming ass music and hair out to here and, Mach 12 with my hair on fire. And the parents would just look at me and go, oh, fuck, please don't go out with this dude, And that was me, basically, you know, and now I get to deal with it with my daughters. When these punk ass fuckers show up at my house, you know, with their pants pulled down to their ass and shit, and I'm just like, oh my God. And, you know, I can spot them a mile away. And they don't even come to the door. They just wait in their car, right? It's like, you little faggot, you know, like, get over here. But yeah, so, you know, I was watching people change, and I was wondering, how do you change? And they said it's simple. You align your will to the will of God, and then you pray your ass off. But you have to align your will to the will of God. That's all you have to do to change, like everything. And I started doing that, like on little things, like walking into a room and not feeling like everyone's laughing at me or staring at me or freaking out or judging me or whatever. You know, I started doing it on stuff like that, like changing that feeling. And my sponsor would say, like, feelings follow behavior. If you don't like the way you feel, change your behavior and stuff like that, which was difficult too. Like, if you're in the casino and you just lost $500 and you feel like shit, feelings follow behavior. If you don't like the way you feel, maybe only lose $20 next time. You know, I mean, this is awful. So there's stuff like that I've had to learn about. Just, it's true. This stuff is true. And then, I don't know, just growing up in sobriety, you know, I think part of the best part of my sobriety has been being a parent and, you know, just getting to raise my girls and all that. And, you know, it's tough. You know, so going to work, I work in an industry that is just fucking fucked. And, you know, I go to work and I do my thing, and then I have to deal with all this crap and people, and I'm like, you know, wow. And then you know, my thing is, I just got to get home without going to jail today, please. And stuff like that. So I'll do all that, go home, do my thing, pay my bills, you know. And I learned around here to take care of the small things so they don't turn into big things. And that can be as simple as, you know, well, what they said is that normal people have self-esteem, right? Normal people have boundaries. Normal people have self-esteem because they do esteemable acts. And an esteemable act can be something as simple as cleaning out your sink, putting the dishes away. You know, you do these little esteemable acts, pretty soon you feel kind of good about yourself. You know, it's like, oh, you're not looking at this or that or that or this. And so I start small, and then I do all that, you know, but it still piles up, right? And then I get all caught up in myself. And then once I'm all caught up in myself, it's just that same old disease bullshit, right? I'm selfish, self-centered, self-seeking because I'm stuck on my shit. And then, you know, I got to call my sponsor or whoever, pick up the 10,000-pound phone and go, man, I'm here again, you know, same spot or whatever. And they're like, man, you get caught up in the minutia, you know, this is what you do, this blah, blah, blah. And you got to get simple, man, you know. And he's like the voice of reason for my disease. He's the only dude I know that can calm me down. And so that's kind of cool, you know. And then my mom, you know, she got into Al-Anon 40 years ago and worked with Alateen, I think, for 20, 30 years. And, you know, it was cool because she got into Al-Anon and because of me. And through my sobriety, it gave her life a sense of direction and purpose for her whole life, which was really, really cool. And so when I was early, they used to say we trudged the road to a happy destiny. And I used to think that sounded awful. Like we're slogging around in the mud, in the ditch, you know, trudging our way to happy destiny, which is way out there. and it was like that just sounds awful because, I'm kind of an instant gratification guy. And I did try everything I could try not to do what you people had to do to get sober because I was so much smarter than the rest of you. I mean, I was freaking brilliant and you guys were all whatever. And I tried, I tried not going to meetings. I tried not getting a sponsor. I tried not reading the book. I tried just drinking and not doing drugs. I tried just doing drugs and not drinking. I tried all of this shit. And none of it worked. None of it. And then I had to basically break down and dummy myself down a little bit and bite the bullet and do what everybody else in this room had to do. The basic same crap, to get wherever it was I needed to go. And so I did that. But when I looked up the word trudge, they looked up the word trudge. And back when it was used, the word trudge meant to walk with direction and purpose. So we walk with direction and purpose towards our happy destiny. And then they say God stands for good, orderly direction, right? And my claim to fame around here is I pay attention. And I always have. I pay attention to what happens to people when they do this, and this, or if they do this, and this. And, I can't say there's people that in the past, I remember spoke over everybody's head. They would be a speaker at a thing like this, and they would be speaking over everybody's head. And I remember sitting in the room thinking, God, I don't even know what the hell he's talking about. And I'd look around the room and everyone in the room couldn't stand this person. And I was like, oh, but they knew everything and they were super smart. And I've watched people like that go get drunk. I've watched people that can quote the big book verbatim, passage and verse, go get drunk. I've watched people that were super impressive that sponsored 85 people go get drunk. I mean, my only thing is I don't want to be a fanatic in here about anything, really, nothing, which is good for me. I don't want to get fanatical. So that keeps me kind of grounded. And the walk with direction and purpose thing helps. And so, yeah, I got sober young, man, and I came into meetings. And there were a lot of older people, that had done a lot of stuff and everything like that. And I hooked up with a young people's group, the PSYPC, Young People's Council. And, they were doing conventions and dances and pancake breakfast, speaker meetings and picnics and all this crap. And it was kind of fun, and it wasn't just like young people, it was like everybody. So we would all get together and do this stuff, and it was cool. We'd rent a building, we'd rent a band, we'd rent a DJ, we'd do this, we'd do that. And it was really cool. And so that's what I did for a long time, was just to stay involved in that. And then I played softball. So I've been on 25 softball teams in softball leagues around here. And I mean, I was born in Hawaii and I grew up in Southern California, and we moved up here before it was fashionable to move from California to Seattle. But I've lived a lot of places. My dad worked for Standard Oil. He was a corporate executive, and we moved around a lot. And he was a drunk, but he was a high functioning, he was a maintenance alcoholic. So he grew up with the Rat Pack. He came home, he had martini lunches, sales shit. He would come home, he'd start hitting the whiskey at 5 o'clock. He'd drink 3 giant tumblers with 2 ice cubes, just whiskey. And he drank a fifth a day of whiskey. And that's what he did, and that was my dad. So this went on. He did that shit till he was 80, He did that shit for 55 years. And, until the doctors finally told him, you can't drink, man, you'll die, and because he would get different doctors, and stuff. But he did pass away a couple months ago, and I had to learn how to separate the disease from the person, which was kind of weird, but I always pictured him stuck in this bottle in a pickled state. And then over here, I pictured, he's my dad, he's the only dad I got. And so, there's this or this, what am I going to look at type of thing. So I loved him, and he passed away a couple months ago, right after my mom passed away. And my mom passed away unexpectedly. We were ready for my dad. We weren't ready for my mom. And she was my best fucking friend in the fucking world. And that fucking sucked. And I went full fucking zombie mode after that for about 2 months. And then my daughter had just gotten accepted into the UW. She had her choice of colleges anywhere she wanted to go. And that blew me away because my kid is fucking awesome. And so her mom's not. Her mom's a fucking homeless fucking drug fiend fucking hack. And, I met her here. And it took a SWAT team to get her out of my house. And then it was sort of like my house has been surrounded by bounty hunters looking for her in the middle of the night. Oh, yeah, man. It's been insane. So I help her out. I take her smokes and money and shit. Take her to the food bank and stuff. And she's just fucking skin and bones. She's just fucking doing everything everybody does in there, smoking white, smoking black, smoking blue, fuck whatever, man. I mean, I've never hung out with a whole bunch of fucking homeless people like this before, and it fucking sucks. But, when I look around, I'm just like, every one of them is fucking high as shit and drunk. Every one of them. And, or, some mental illness or whatever. And it's just like, God damn, man. And then it's right there, and it's like, God, fuck. And, I guess, I should be grateful and jumping up and down, jumping for joy because, I'm fucking not there, but it's painful to watch, it sucks. So, there's people like you, and these people are going to walk in here one day, and they're going to be a total fucking train wreck. And someone in this room is going to be able to pick them up, and smile at them and say, man, I did it. You can do it, whatever. And they're going to make a huge difference. And you're going to save somebody's life, and that's kind of a thing, around here that we've been called upon to be able to do for people. And I'm not going to be able to do it for her. I highly doubt it. She doesn't listen to a fucking word I say. but somebody else might, you might, I don't know, you might, but yeah, so she's a mess. And my daughters are in therapy and stuff, which is great. And I was telling them how proud I was of them, for trying to heal from their past, because so many times that stuff just creeps up and it just runs our life. And I didn't even know where it was all coming from till I did, my 4th and 5th step. And I was just like, what is this? Where did this come from? What, the fears list? I was afraid of everything. And I was just like, why? And it was very weird. But yeah, my dad used to drive with us drunk in the car. We were little kids, and he ran over the mailbox, and the whole thing, puking on the Christmas tree. I mean, you name it, I've been there. I've been around it, whatever. And it's amazing what we normalize, right? When we grow up in that stuff, we just normalize this stuff. Everything's just normal. It's all just so normal, and it's all just so not normal. And so that's what I've realized, being sober and coming here. And yeah, I've got a lot of healing to do, with my mom and my dad and stuff. And, I'm fighting hard right now for my sanity, mainly. Most days. And, it's not like I feel like drinking or using, it's like we all have that shit tattooed on the back of our brain that this is instant relief. I mean, I know it. It's there. I got that tattoo. I get it, but that's just not an option for me today, I guess. Drinking's not an option. And, suicide's not an option. I've watched so many people go down that road too, and it's so sad. I think before I was even 30, I'd been to 20 funerals just from people around here that just offend themselves in various different ways. And I remember thinking, why didn't they just call me, man? And I used to get so freaking pissed. And then a good friend of mine said, I don't got time for dead people, and I kind of got it, because it just seemed like such a waste of time. We're like going there, we're like, trying to help with the family and the kids and the this and the that. And it's just like, I don't got time for this, man. I got time for people that are alive that want to call me and ask for help or whatever. And but as far as burying people, I don't know. But I've gotten to do a lot of cool shit in sobriety. Raising my kids is my crown jewel, I think. I'm on 5 albums. I've been in 40 bands. I played on 20 softball teams. I've accomplished a lot of shit. And but it's sort of like, one day at a time. Just stay sober, come to meetings. I don't know where I was going with that little thing I just said. I think that was my ego taking off, or trying to. But it's sort of about, for me, it's about what am I doing now? I don't mind that I'm kind of missing out on stuff. I don't mind that, I'm a dad. I pay my bills. I go to work. I do my shit. And that's about it. My circle got real small, but I've got 5 friends I wouldn't trade 1,000 for, I wouldn't trade one of them for 1,000. And, there's a guy that's passed away too that was saying that if we threw all of our bags of problems in the middle of the room, I'd probably take mine back. I wouldn't want to take yours. I would probably take mine back, whatever the hell mine is. And mine's pretty full most of the time, but we just do this. And is this mine?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, good. Thank God. Who pissed a drinker? It's like that at my house still. Anybody leaves a cup of coffee, a glass of anything laying around, I will suck that shit down. I don't care what it is or where it is. 5 glasses of stuff on the table, it's mine. Thank you very much. Bye. It's so weird. But yeah, it's great to see Bird, and it's great to to be here and to, you know, I've been to meetings in Mexico. I've been to meetings in Hawaii. I went to the San Diego International Convention. That was great. You know, I went to the Minnesota International Convention. That was great. I went to the Seattle International Convention. That was great. That was the safest I ever felt in Seattle, was during that convention, with 80,000 recovering alcoholics wandering the streets of Seattle. We drank the whole city out of coffee. We ran them out of fucking coffee. It was great. So that's all I got for you guys tonight. And thank you again for letting me share.